Welcome, folks. Again, we have the handsome Dr. Joseph Alton and his lovely wife, Nurse Amy, and our former CEO of the Asset Center will rejoin us as soon as his internet decides to quit messing with him. So let's make sure we've got a couple people hiding out there. Well, we did have. So let's give it a minute and see if anybody else shows up.
No problem. We're just happy to be here. Happy to be alive, actually, in this day and age. You know what? Amen for health.
Yeah, well, I consider myself blessed, considering I went next door and helped deal with that little boy next door during the first couple hours he was sick.
Oh boy.
So, I exposed myself pretty badly, and by the grace of God, I'm still breathing fine. And there's Miss Mouse.
How many days has it been since that exposure?
7.
Okay, great. Good.
So
you should be good.
Yeah,
knock on wood.
With a brief case of it 3 days prior to the little boy. My son was very mild. He had very slight fever, very nasty headache. He threw up everywhere. The next day he started feeling better. There's Mr. Gill. He made it back.
Yeah, high quality Japanese internet service. I meant Japanese Chinese internet service.
There you go.
Don't laugh. The server is in China.
In China.
For Sparklight.
Do you know why they did that? Because you used to work for DHS. They're trying to see if they can get secrets.
There ain't no secrets on these laptops.
No, there's no secrets. It's all being broadcast,
very
collected.
Public, yeah.
Facebook, Chrome, everybody's collecting, no matter what.
Zoom.
Hey,
Zoom, that's the latest. Yeah, isn't that lovely? Everyone went home, did all of their business, corporate business, private secret business on Zoom, and Zoom's just collecting it all.
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's see.
Okay, we've got so far we got a Mouse, we have a Texan, we have a North Star, we have a Michael, we got Ryan the Gamer. We got a few people in there. We got 7 now.
Yeah.
So, Doc, I hear you wrote a new book.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it is
I think it's over there.
The culmination of about 10 years of writing about epidemic disease, and it's called Alton's Pandemic Preparedness Guide, dealing with emerging and current viral threats. I didn't want to put the word coronavirus in it because I wanted to have it be useful for people beyond coronavirus, COVID-19. But we do write a lot about COVID-19 in it. And it is, I would say, for us, a relatively short book. It's about 270 pages, but it talks only about viral disease. Now, our previous book, the is called Alton's Antibiotics and Infectious Disease, and that book talks about bacteria. Oh, there it is, and that talks about bacterial disease and the antibiotics that treat it. But we didn't go much into viral disease in it because antibiotics don't do anything for viruses. So basically, we needed a viral book.
Although they are combining.
Yes.
An antibiotic with
we'll
anti-malaria, which we'll talk about later.
We'll talk about that, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the book talks all about viruses. It tells you about DNA viruses, RNA viruses, which is what COVID-19 is, and influenza and a lot of other ones. I have to go through. We tell you all about how they determine how contagious something is. We talk about the R0 number. We talk about how viruses kill, how influenza kills, how COVID kills, how your own immune system can kill you as a result of its response to viruses.
Right, overreaction. We
talk about the shift and drift of genetic material in a virus over the course of time. We already have at least 8 mutations to this COVID-19 virus. And of course, every year we have a new mutation at least of influenza. And so we talk about the years where it's very minimal change in the genome. And we talk about years in which there's a lot of change. A minimal change, you've got what's called antigenic drift. And in those circumstances, vaccines and other types of things like that will be relatively effective. In years where there's an antigenic shift, it's basically an entirely different critter that we haven't been exposed to before, similar to SARS-CoV, to this virus that we're dealing with now in the pandemic. And you wind up having many more cases, much more spread, many more deaths. And so we talk a lot about that. We talk about all the other common viral diseases that can cause pandemics. In the United States, we used to have yellow fever pandemics all the time, especially in places like Savannah, New Orleans, and things like that. There are whole cemeteries that were dedicated to victims of that. If you ever travel to those areas, you'll see them. And we've talked about dengue fever and the West Nile, Zika virus, all that stuff. We actually wrote books about Ebola and Zika. So this is not our saying, oh, this is COVID-19, let's just write a book about it. We've been writing about viral epidemic disease for, gosh, a decade or so.
Long time.
What else? Well, I mean, we also talk about some things like civil liberties versus public health, and some of the things that, go on. For example, you're told not to buy masks because you want to save those for people that are on the front line, the medical workers. And of course, that is very commendable, and I certainly agree with that. But the CDC also recommends home care for mild to moderate cases. But if there's home care, that means there's a home care giver.
Right,
so
which is what I think your neighbor's dealing with, the little boy that's sick,
and
his neighbor.
And that person is a medical worker too.
Right.
And so that person should have masks as well. And of course, if you...
I gave her half of what I had.
Well, there you go. If
you're gloves that fit her hands.
You're a good man. So this is something that is absolutely, I think, is very important for people to have a supply of masks and a way to reuse and extend the use of these kinds of masks and things like that. And so we're talking a little bit about some of the ultraviolet lights. So we got quite a few of them here, so we can show you a few of them. Let's see, what do we got here? We have, well, we can talk a little bit about UV light if you want. The viruses don't really reproduce on their own, but they do have genetic material. They're either DNA or they're RNA viruses, or very few of them, if any, are actually creatures that have both DNA or RNA.
Let's answer a question first.
We have a question?
We're talking about the book.
I can't see when there's a question.
I know.
So let me know.
I'm going to be your helper. I'm your Vanna White, honey.
All right.
So first, let's just leave that there for a second. Let's talk about zinc. Right. And I think what's on everyone's mind is, if I don't have the zinc. I mean, one thing we know we can buy over the counter, which we've been able to buy over the counter until recently, has been zinc supplements.
Right.
And what you've seen in all of these pictures have been the zinc sulfate, 220 milligrams, which, by the way, is way, way over.
That's a mega dose of zinc, yeah.
Yes. So we couldn't find them either, folks. What I did do, and what you guys can look for also, is I found ionic zinc, and it is from zinc sulfate, but every dropper of this is 15 milligrams. Now, you're supposed to add this to water or juice. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
I just want to show that
Zinc.
real close.
I think you can see that.
Take notes, folks.
So it's liquid. So we've been putting it in to juices. We've been putting it before we go to sleep. Joe gets a dropper. I get a dropper. The one dropper is only 15 milligrams, but it's ionic. So I think maybe it'll be absorbed a little more than a tablet that goes into my stomach, because I know that our vitamins are not fully absorbed. And we all know this. When you take your vitamins, your stomach and your intestines do not always break them completely down. And some of them are passed out as waste. So the question is, and I don't have a scientific answer, does the liquid 15 milligrams absorb more than, say, the 220 milligrams? So maybe, 2 or 3 droppers full equal the 220 milligrams. I'm not sure how much of that capsule or tablet is actually broken down and absorbed. I don't have any scientific data about that.
Now, but
this is all I can find right now. So, something is better than nothing.
the reason why we're using that dosage, that 220 milligrams, because that is the dosage that Dr. Zelenko, the doctor in New York that is taking care of a Orthodox Jewish community, that's the formula essentially that he used. He used zinc sulfate at that dosage. He used azithromycin as a antibiotic to prevent the secondary bacterial infection, which in at least the flu is what actually kills you. Is usually an opportunistic bacteria comes in and does you in, and not the original virus. But also chloroquine, and the chloroquine is an anti-malarial drug that was first patented in 1949. It was a better version that was patented in 1955 called hydroxychloroquine. And he used hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, both of them for 5 days, and in conjunction with the zinc. And the chloroquine actually prevents the virus from entering the cells, and with the zinc, it actually has a synergistic effect. In other words, more of an effect than it would have if you had just used zinc alone, or if you had just used chloroquine alone. And so this is why they're using this particular cocktail, if you want to call it that, to treat people. And they've had some success in terms of corroboration. There's a French doctor named Didier Raoul, and he had a number of patients that he gave some to. He gave the chloroquine and the zinc and all that to one group, and he didn't give it to another group, and he wound up having the symptoms last about a day longer in people who didn't get the chloroquine. And the people, and by the way, each one of these patients that he was taking care of had pneumonia on CT scan, and 81% showed an improvement after 5 days, compared to 55% of people that did not get the medicine. So 81% with chloroquine, 55% without. And there was also a study in China, and this is the first study that actually can stand up to scientific scrutiny. The other ones were basically you're taking the word of these researchers or these doctors that are in private practice. But this is one from a medical center in Beijing, and they had 62 patients, and they did what they call a randomized double-blind study like they do in universities here in the United States. So it stands up to some kind of scrutiny, and it showed that there was pretty good success with using chloroquine. Now, on the other hand, there was a study of 11 patients, just 11 patients, that said that there was no effect. But you're going to have to do your own research and reach your own conclusions with that. I personally feel that it's better to try something than to just sit there and watch people die. I've done that. I've been there, done that. And that's something that if you have the option to try something, even if it's not something that's been totally vetted, it might not be unreasonable to do it. Now, it does have side effects. If you have a bad heart, it can cause your heart rate to go too fast or too slow. It causes nausea. It causes headache, blinding headaches. In some cases, a study in Stockholm actually had to stop the study because too many people were getting really bad migraines on the medicine. So there's good things and there's bad things, but all in all, I think that it's important to try this, to have this available, and the FDA agrees. It approved the drug. So if you're interested in this medication, you can talk to your family doctor. It is something that's legal for them to prescribe.
And I believe that they're trying to stock up all the pharmacies. I mean, at least this is what I've heard, that they're trying to get enough into pharmacies so that when your doctor that you've spoken to calls the prescription in, that they're not going to tell you, sorry, we don't have this, we've never had it, or we're out, right. that this is going to be available to the people who need it. And I think a real key to this, and I think they're starting to see this, is the earlier that they get this on board, the better. Now, one thing I am concerned about is that I don't think your doctor should wait until you have a positive test. I think that the legitimate and the best way, the humane way to deal with this, as far as the medication, is to get it to the people when the doctor has evaluated, looked at the signs, checked you out, either telemedicine or if they have a physical visit, that's fine. But most of these doctors are wanting to do telemedicine over a phone or a computer to look at you, to ask you questions. If they feel in their hearts and what they know about this, at least the data now, that you have this, that doctor, I feel, should be able to call you in that prescription now. Because when these tests are done, some of these areas, they're not getting test results back for sometimes 2 or 3 days. I personally had a test on a Friday at about 5:30 in the afternoon at a hospital, which should have been able to run the lab. And I was not called until Sunday afternoon. So for 2 days, I didn't know. But, you know, if they would have had these medicines available at the time, because when I had the test, you couldn't get it. Now it's hopefully more available. I feel the hospital should
have better tests too.
Yeah, they have better tests. They have quicker tests. But I feel the hospital, honestly, now, had I been with the symptoms that I had, with a telemedicine visit, with a doctor who told me over the computer, Amy, would you like me to call an ambulance for you? Because I was so sick and I had whatever symptoms that he felt met the criteria and went to get a test, that I should have been called in the prescription. I wasn't. But I hope now today, the people who do have to wait, because not everyone has the 15-minute test. Some areas probably are still doing 2 or 3 day testing, and it's very scary during that 2 or 3 days testing because you can get sicker. They're waiting. So I just hope that the doctors out there are recognizing that, no, this is not proven. It's not 100%. We don't have scientific studies. We're not going to have those for a while, but people are getting sick, and they're getting sick fast. When they go downhill, some people go from morning fine till evening in the ICU. And that's not something you can mess around with for 2 or 3 days. We need to get these medicines in the hands of people. Now, as far as the zinc, I don't know what the doctors are doing. They know about these 2 medicines, but the zinc is not a prescription. So it's almost like, okay, well, here's these 2 medicines, but good luck finding the zinc.
Tim here says that he heard that this is the problem with zinc, is that very little of it is absorbed in your system.
Exactly.
As
minimal
he
amount
mentions here, and that's probably why you're being given so much of it.
Which is why
and the chloroquine,
I like this.
And the chloroquine together actually helps the zinc be absorbed.
Exactly. And that's the action of it. It's allowing the zinc to get into the cells. It's actually the zinc that's killing the virus. And I think a lot of people are losing that point. You have to listen to a lot of doctors talk before you pick out the pieces that are actually meaningful. And one of them is, it's the zinc that is preventing the virus from replicating. That's actually your active part of this whole thing. So I just want to let you guys know that I did look up where I got this, because like I said, I've been ordering so much for the store. I've basically replaced the store a couple of times. But this was on Amazon, and it's from Good State. And I'm going to hold this up because this is my actual purchase. I don't know if you can see this or if it's too bright. No, it's going to be too bright. Okay. Well, I'm sorry.
All right. Well, just look up ionic zinc. That's all I have to do.
Ionic liquid zinc ultra. I did get mine from Amazon. I don't know if they still have it, but it was 2 day shipping, and I got it really fast.
GNC has it for about $12.99 a bottle.
Great. And that's the thing. It's not expensive, which was, thank goodness, because everything else is so expensive, that we find something that isn't so bad. And like I said, Joe and I are taking a dropper of this in the morning, and then we take a dropper each at night. I'm not overdosing it. I know 100% is the one dropper, but I would rather be safe than sorry. And so 1 dropper in about 4 to 8 ounces of water in the morning, and then before we go to sleep, we each do a dropper.
Okay. The only one thing I want to add real quick about the hydroxychloroquine is today the CDC did a backpedal. They're stepping away from the administration, saying, "Oh, well, we can't approve that now." So now the FDA is also backtracking their earlier statements.
So they said that when? Today?
Yes, today.
Wow. Okay. Well, that surprises me, and
Was that on the newscast or was it just
It was a
written?
it was a written paper by a news agency.
They're saying who's stepping back?
I'm getting here. Chloroquine
wait.
is currently approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
So is this the
That's from
CDC
the
fighting
NIH.
with the FDA is the question.
Yes.
You're saying the CDC is saying it's not, but the FDA is the one who actually approves our drugs.
The FDA sided with Trump. And you remember yesterday, the CDC was including the anecdotal testing.
Uh-huh.
People might not understand what that means. And as far as testing, that means they have a limited number of cases that they're using to base their assumptions on.
Right.
Not that it's a joke, which what most people think of anecdotal. But they've taken all those test results out of their statement saying we're still evaluating it. We can't recommend it at this time.
Well, you know what? It doesn't really matter what the CDC says. It's the FDA. Those are the ones who approve our drugs. If the FDA pulls it, then we're in trouble. But the FDA is the one that's going to actually allow, because the pharmacists are going to listen to the FDA. They're not going to listen to the CDC. The hospitals might listen to the CDC for guidance for things like PPE and how to sterilize masks and reusing and, proper use of this. But the FDA is the one in charge of the medications. The CDC is not in charge of the pharmacies. So they can say whatever they want, but if the FDA approves it and lets physicians prescribe it, the CDC can scream all they want. They're not going to be able to stop it.
Here we go. Well,
So what about the question up there? I can't even pronounce that stuff.
what's the question?
I don't know.
I don't know what that is.
Zinc gluten. No, I would have to look that. I've never heard of either of those.
It's zinc sulfate that is.
Those
are the two. Those are the two.
Brand name.
Those are the two active ingredients in Zicam.
Oh, okay. So.
All right. Well, sulfate is the one they've been talking about, so I'm not sure about that. I have to look up what there's break down to. Maybe they break down to sulfate. I'm not sure.
Yeah. On here it says active ingredients in each tablet is it says like also the zinc the second one there has 2x and the first one has 1x. And what that means, I don't know, but that's what it says on the box up here on the top of on it. So on the Zicam.
Zincum is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in any case,
you're saying Zicam, but I see the word zinc in there, ZINC. Yeah. I'm not sure how that's pronounced.
It's a zinc supplement, is what that is. It's just a proprietary combination.
But what are they combining
made by a company?
It with? And how is it absorbed? Is the question.
Well, it might be.
You take the tablet like this, and you put it in your you put it in your tongue like this.
And there you go.
You know what I mean.
Well,
how much of the zinc is actually getting into my blood cells?
As long as it doesn't come out the other end looking like the capsule that you started with, you probably did absorb some of it.
Yeah, so you keep it in your mouth that it absorbs, and it says place it under your tongue.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, I think if it's got zinc in it, I think it's generally a good thing. I think it works well with colds and influenza to decrease the severity of it. It doesn't stop you from getting it, I don't think, but it decreases the severity possibly of it. In conjunction with chloroquine, it may help. Now, I don't see...
They're homeopathic names.
I don't see anything that says that it's not. I went to the NIH site and it says chloroquine is currently approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. So the bottom line is that if you do call your doctor can, if that doctor is willing, can prescribe this stuff for you. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, a Connecticut hospital is using these things out of what they call desperation. I mean, basically, they don't have anything else to use. And so when you don't have anything else to use, you've got to use what's there. And the good news is that it's cheap. It's a very cheap regimen of a drug regimen. And also it is something that they know what the side effects are. They know who can take it and who can't take it. And they've got 50 years, more than 50 years. 70 years of experience with it. So they know what happens to people when they get too much of it in their system. So this is the kind of thing that is exactly what you want, because if it was a new drug, let's say we called it Altonium or something like that, well, that would be something that they would have to be doing tests. It would be a year before it comes out. And indeed, a vaccine or anything like that is going to be at least a year and a half, I think, before it comes out. So we're going to be experiencing this, and we're going to be experiencing a second wave, and then we're going to be experiencing after that Corona season. It's Corona season. Have you gotten your shot yet?
Oh no.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
I know.
It's going to be it's a recyclable kind of thing, and we're just going to see wave upon wave of it. Now, that doesn't mean that the society is going to break down and the end is near. It just means that, just like the flu, it's going to be just one more thing that you're going to have to deal with between late fall and early spring.
Unless, just being the bearer of possible bad news here, that it does mutate into something more deadly, which
they say it's already mutated.
We don't know. We have at least 8 varieties already. We started with 1. So, I mean, these RNA viruses sadly mutate more frequently. And every time it mutates, frankly, once it gets into somebody's body, every time it goes into another cell, it's mutating, it's replicating. And if you make 1,000 photocopies of something, even on your perfect brand new printer, probably something's not going to look right. It's like money. When they print money, I mean, talk about trying to be perfect every time. We get money that's a little funky sometimes. Something's mistyped or moved around. The same thing happens with these RNA viruses. So every person that it gets into is another vector or another petri dish for this thing to mutate just a tiny bit. Hopefully it mutates so it doesn't kill the person, or it dies faster in that person because it mismutated and actually killed off itself because it stopped being able to be so perfect. But unfortunately, every once in a while, we get those changes that make it worse. So the sad thing, and it's like influenza, every year it's a little bit different. We could have a little bit different coronavirus every year. If it becomes a little more deadly, I mean, I don't know what the world's going to be. We all just need to have a lot of food and stuff in our houses just to be ready for things, because we don't know. It could be 20 years before it gets worse, but it might be 2 years. I don't know.
I would say we've probably got 9 strains now because they tested the cat in the Bronx Zoo.
Oh, right, the tiger, right?
So,
yeah, so that's a strain. If
they got cat. Oh, kitty. Oh, look at that baby.
What I want to know is, why did they even think the tiger?
Oh, it looks like a Bengal.
Now, what's the question?
Why did they even think to test an animal for it?
It must have been coughing or sick. It must have been sick.
Yeah, the animal was sick, and
had a
the zookeeper had tested positive for COVID-19.
Okay, so it had a possible transmission and exhibited symptoms.
No, they currently don't believe it can be transferred from cat back to human. So
right, and let's cross our fingers they don't find that out, because can you imagine all the pet owners surrendering all of their cats to the Humane Society? I mean, this is just like.
I know it sounds unthinkable, but
unthinkable.
I mean, it was already happening. I've seen several posts a couple of weeks ago on Facebook saying, your cat and dog cannot get it from you. Do not, drop your animals off at the shelter. People were doing that already.
They were dropping their animals off at the shelter.
Yeah, people are scared.
That's terrible.
I know I said I think it could mutate, but right now it's not. It has not made that truly deadly switch. I mean, we had Ebola. What was Ebola's death rate? 90 or something?
Ebola
was
killed you. Different strains killed you at a different pace. So 50%, 90%, in some cases 25%, and other cases. There were a number of different strains with Ebola. And Ebola, and the thing is that the death rate with Ebola changed in the beginning of the epidemic, and during the worst part of the epidemic, you had a 60% death rate. But once they were able to get medical supplies in, like IV fluids and things like that, a lot of people were dying just because they were dehydrated. And so it ended up that the 2014 epidemic of West Africa ended up with just a 40% death rate. Of course, 40% death rate is pretty terrible, but it was 60% before they just did simple things like having enough IV fluids to put into people so they don't dehydrate to death. That's what killed a lot of soldiers during the Civil War.
So I actually thought about this before, and I'm not sure you and I have even had this conversation, but we get tonic water every Christmas because your brother's wife likes to drink tonic water with her vodka.
Right.
We don't drink it ourselves,
Quinine.
but it's quinine. So obviously there's been a lot of discussion over many, many years about quinine,
Right.
and anti-malarial being possibly related to this prescription medicine that we're now trying to give. So should everyone go out and buy Schweppes tonic water to save themselves from?
It's not at the right dose. It's not at the right dosage to be therapeutic. The quinine was what was originally used, and that was distilled from the bark of the cinchona tree. And the the drugs that I'm talking about, chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine, are just synthetic versions of that original quinine, and that they made in the late 40s and mid 50s.
So is there any dose of tonic water that with the zinc that you think if somebody just can't get a hold of medicine would be okay? Or
not that I know.
You're worried.
Not that I know of. I believe.
I know you shouldn't drink too much tonic water. I have heard that.
I believe that you'll find. I believe you're going to find enough chloroquine tablets available for people to use. You know, if it continues that we don't have any other alternative, that we're going to.
I think they've ramped up. That. They have really ramped up. But I will say that. Go ahead. Would you want to?
I was saying that Sandoz Pharmaceuticals has donated 30 million tablets or doses.
Amazing.
To the National Strategic Stockpile. And so, you know what that means? That means that they're probably not going to get to the citizens. They're probably going to get to the government, but not necessarily, and to the military and things like that. But not, maybe these pills are not going to get to people in your neighborhood. Basically, what
all right, well, then
is,
I tell you what, I'm calling my neighborhood pharmacist tomorrow. I'm going to ask him if he has any.
The Strategic National
John
Stockpile.
from Pillbox, you're getting a call tomorrow.
The Strategic National Stockpile, that is not for you and it's not for me. It's for the maintenance of the continuity of the government.
Well, we know that. We already have people in, what is it, Cheyenne Mountain, in the bunkers. I'm sure you guys have heard that.
Oh, yeah, in the underground.
So they've got people in the bunkers already.
Yep.
Just in case.
Sweeping out the cobweb.
Go ahead.
Somebody down below here made a comment. I think it's kind of interesting. High-end tonic water like Q or Fever Tree quinine supplement is 83 parts per million. It would take 5 gallons of tonic water to make a dose.
That's what I was saying. I think you need a little too much of the quinine water. You'd have to be drinking that 24 hours a day.
Well, there you go.
Forget the chicken soup. I'm just going to have quinine water forever. Tonic water. Oh, my gosh.
All right. That's very interesting, by the way. Thank you.
You know, you can't die from overhydration. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's true. You can drown.
Yeah.
I'm still drinking my cold press organic lemon water, stevia, cayenne pepper.
Oh, gosh, please. Put that over
It's got probiotics.
Oh, well, that's something.
I'm trying to stay healthy.
All right.
Yeah,
so,
get sick.
So let's talk a little bit about the UVC. We call it UVGI.
Well, wait, let's see if there's any more questions.
Oh, are there questions? Other questions?
No, go ahead. Move on to UVs.
All right, we're good. Okay.
All right. So
places right now talking about, go out buy these UV lights, and there's lights on Amazon and eBay and all these other sites that say this is a UV light. So let's make sure we get a doctor's perspective on the proper information so our folks are educated.
All right, so UVGI is ultraviolet germicidal irradiation. And so basically that's one of the effective technologies that we have to minimize the spread of airborne microorganisms. And so let's talk about sunlight. Sunlight contains UV light, right? It contains actually 3 different types. It has UVA, which makes up the vast majority of the ultraviolet radiation that reaches the actual surface of the Earth. And that's capable of penetrating deep into the skin. It's thought to be what's responsible for making people have wrinkles and age spots as they get older.
It's also called the black light. That's what the black light is.
There you
is
go.
the UVA.
Then you have UVB. Now that is something that in a big enough dose. Now UVA is about 95% of the total amount of ultraviolet radiation that you wind up absorbing. UVB is about another almost 5%, and that is something that can damage the skin. It's a more powerful wavelength, essentially, that leads to sunburn and eventually skin cancer. And that's something that we know does occur, and it occurs mostly because of UVB light. But the good news is it's blocked by most sunscreens. UVA and UVB, if you have a good sunscreen, you most likely can block the damage that occurs from those two wavelengths. But there's also a third type, and that's called UVC. And that's a shorter, even more energetic wavelength that is particularly good at destroying genetic material. Now, it destroys genetic material in viruses, and it destroys genetic material in humans. So it is very dangerous for you to be exposed to UVC light. And the good news is that UVC light is filtered by the ozone as in the atmosphere long before it reaches our skin.
Amen for the ozone being repaired.
That's right. There you go.
Remember when the 70s, I remember I was a kid.
Ozone,
I was a kid. I remember them saying, oh, there's a big hole in the ozone. And I thought, well, I don't really know what that is, but that sounds really scary. It made kids scared to go outside, but we repaired it.
So the UVC, what it does is it damages the DNA or the RNA, and it causes a faulty reproduction or makes reproduction not go well. And in humans, it can cause cancer, and cancerous cells that have been deranged by the UV light. And it can just plain old kill viruses and a lot of bacteria and a lot of other critters. And so it's right now in hospitals, actually sort of a staple method of sterilization. So you'll see it in hospitals, on airplanes, offices. There are a couple of different ways that they do it that you may not even know about. You may see it in ducts. So like in the duct work.
We have it in all of our air conditioning ducts.
In our
units.
House.
Yes.
So we have UVC light that is irradiating, or germicidal irradiation that's going on in all the duct work and in the house and in many other places, hospitals, things like that. And so you don't even really know
it's located in the handler.
Right.
It actually is located in the handler. And we have to replace the lights about every 6 months to a year because they have to maintain their potency. If your UV light gets old, like an old light bulb kind of gets dull, it's not as effective. It has to maintain that range between about 200 to 280 nanometers is the most effective. So when your UV light gets old, it's really not doing anything. So we have to keep up on these. You have
strips, don't you, that you can use that would identify, the actual amount of exposure.
Right? I actually have purchased UV dosimeter strips, and what they do, I bought the ones for healthcare, is I'm going to put these where I have the UV lights to see if they're effective. And it's a way to monitor your UVC lights to see if the one you have or the one you bought or the one you had for a while is still effective. And I bought, I think it was it 10 for $35. And it was the healthcare level. And it was on a website called American Ultraviolet. And it's actually store.uvsolutionsforhome.com.
So you can identify whether your UV light is actually producing the amount of exposure that is necessary.
Right.
Now, besides using it in the ducts and the ductwork of a building, they have something called upper room air irradiation, which they have UV lights. If you have a pretty high ceiling, you can have UV lights that are up there, and this UV light basically doesn't penetrate all the way down to floor level, and you wind up not having that much exposure or any significant exposure because you're pretty far away. But the air, as it's circulating, ends up passing within range of the UV
Right.
lights on the ceiling, or sometimes they have them on the walls.
And
But they
actually,
have to be higher up than you are by a certain distance.
right. And actually, this this company I just talked about, American Ultraviolet, they've been in business since 1960. These are not somebody who just came out in February and said, "Oh, UV lights, oh, let's go get rich." These people have been doing this for many, many, many years. They have excellent information. They talk about the nanometer range. They talk about ozone. They talk about safety and exposure, and just they have a whole FAQ, facts and questions page, and it's just really interesting. And they have different solutions, and they do have some for the air conditioning ducts, which you'd have to have installed by a professional electrician. They have things for water. They have things for surfaces. They have a wand. Now, their wand, I don't think we've shown this yet, but their wand actually is a little bit heftier. It almost looks like a light that you would install with a fluorescent bulb on the ceiling, but it has a handle. But our wand here is called Verilux. It won't turn on if it's facing you, but I want you to see the blue light that's on my hand. So I'm killing my hand here. But
yeah,
I'm now sterilizing my mouse. But you're supposed to hold that there for
about
10 seconds at 1
same
to
thing
2.
with your keyboard.
And if I was doing the keyboard, same thing. And then we have masks. So you can actually do this, but what I prefer instead of this, because I'm going to turn this off.
Show them the cabinet.
I'm going to turn this off. Okay.
Okay, so what we have
turn
here.
Your chair completely sideways.
Okay.
Okay, now you look at the camera and see if they can see this.
We see it just fine.
Right.
It looks like a toaster oven.
So I have several different masks, and actually we wear these on a regular basis. We have not been disposing of our masks. We've actually been reusing them. Now, these 3-ply masks tend to have these folds. Right. So what we do is we reach underneath and we open the folds up so that you get the most exposure to the light. There's a grill inside of here. By the way, this is from eBay, guys. This is nothing fancy. I think this cost me $118. It is not horribly expensive. We take these masks and we open them up so the folds are open. Place them in here. I have one more. These are 3 different types of masks. Again, opening the folds. Now, if these were dirty, I would actually be wearing gloves, or I would definitely be washing my hands without touching my face immediately after doing this and keeping them away from myself.
She means contaminated. If they're physically dirty, you just throw the mask away.
Close this, and then you're going to turn this light on for 15 minutes. Now, Joe, don't look. I'm going to open this up for you guys. It's not going to hurt you, but I want you to see the light. Okay? That's what's going on in there. 15 minutes. You leave this on.
Very bad for your eyes. Very bad for your skin.
This is why we turned away.
You don't want to.
Turned it off.
You don't want to be exposed too much to this stuff. But there are a lot of different choices, and you know what? It's one of the ways that you can extend the life of a disposable mask. We have.
You have a small one too.
Every hospital has a biosafety cabinet where they have these kinds of lights, and what they're doing now is they're assigning masks to individuals. You should never share a mask with anyone else. It should always be dedicated to you only. And they put it in the biosafety cabinets, and they used it, several times at least before they throw it away. And maybe, and they could probably use it even more than several times, and still have an effective mask. So it doesn't deform the mask in any way.
That's the thing about this. There's no
change
heat.
The filtration efficiency.
Right. There's no heat. Mm-hmm. There's no super hot steam that might degrade the glass fibers that are in there. You have to understand, especially the N95s is basically blown glass in there.
That's called melt blown fabric. Yeah.
And too much heat is going to deform this. They're also talking about it being charged, and soaking in some of these solutions discharges them. so that they're not holding the viruses away from getting to you. So, it sounds great. Oh, I'll just wash it and dry it. But if that disrupts it in some way that you can't see and you think it's effective, you could risk yourself getting sick. So I really like this. I think UV light has been around a long time. What I would probably do to be really, really safe is do the 15 minutes up. And then I know it has reflection underneath, but I would turn it over. And I don't think it's a bad idea to do 15 minutes on each side. They're also using vaporized hydrogen peroxide cabinets in some of these disinfectant companies. I know Medline, who I get a lot of my supplies from, which is the biggest hospital supply company in the United States, is now actually taking masks back from hospitals and using the vaporized hydrogen peroxide, which is like a 2.5 hour process in these giant, almost like door vault cabinets. Seems very expensive, very time consuming. I would really like some simple solution. I think if hospitals could have a cabinet with some UV lights all around and the nurses just kind of all put their masks in there at the end of the shift, and then the next day they come back in and they're ready to go.
And the funny thing is that
would be so awesome.
The hospitals have these cabinets. They have these cabinets, but they use them for
instruments,
like
and things you have like right there,
and things like that. So basically, this is something that every hospital has an answer if they are willing to use it. And if they're willing to use it, then they would be able to certainly extend the life of any of their disposable items that they're running short of.
So the point of me talking about worrying about destroying the effectiveness of masks is that things like Lysol may actually disrupt those fibers and the charge, and may make it less effective. Right. So Lysol sounds great, but we really have to worry about what's the filtration rate after I
same thing with bleach.
Wash it in soap and water, wash it in a really strong bleach. I did see one really interesting, not scientific study, but an experiment with 2 college professors and an intern. And what they did was they took a series of N95 masks and they washed them in a 1% bleach, which equals 1 gallon and 3 tablespoons of bleach. So not a whole lot of bleach, but 1%. And they washed them because they knew this was an effective killer of viruses, not necessarily COVID. We don't know that 100%, but previous viruses are killed by a 1% bleach solution. So they washed them. They didn't wash them aggressively though. So watching them, when they put it in the fluid, they basically did this. So I want you to see that they just kind of moved, and they had, of course, gloves on. They just kind of moved their hands very gently over the mask. They didn't do this, okay? They weren't doing this because they didn't want to disrupt all of the fibers in there, okay? So they just kind of moved inside the bleach water, the gallon of bleach water, just really gently. And then they did this. They kind of folded it up and gave it a gentle squeeze, okay? They didn't twist it. They didn't squeeze it real hard. They just gave it a real gentle squeeze. And then they opened it up and then they laid it out to dry. When it was completely dry, they repeated the process. The ones that they did one for 1 washing, 2 washing, 4 washing, 16 washing, and 64 washing. The one that did 64 washing, and it was a very interesting way that they monitored how the filtration was still effective, but it was still effective after 64 washings of 1% bleach, but they weren't aggressive. They didn't spray it with Lysol. They didn't spray it with hydrogen peroxide. They just did 1% bleach gently. Okay, so you have to be careful with what we're using and how we're washing it and how we're cleaning it, because you can destroy the filtration rates, but you won't know it by just looking at it.
So you have irradiation, you have this bleach, this very, very dilute bleach solution that Amy's talking about, and you also have the dry heat. Also, dry heat will work about 160 degrees in the oven. If your oven
Yes.
can go down,
There
that
we go.
can actually go down that
Drying
far.
it out.
And dry it out for about 30 minutes in dry heat, not an autoclave because that will deform the mass, but dry heat, that will actually work also. And that's from a study done at the International Medical Center of Beijing. Back when they were having all these problems, they were running out of masks over there, and they did a number of different tests, and they found that this UV light worked, and they found that dry heat in an oven, not very high temperature, 160 degrees for 30 minutes worked. And they didn't. They knew that alcohol, spraying the mask with alcohol, affected its filtration over the course of time, but
Right.
I didn't mention anything about. They didn't try the bleach solution, but
No, that was just a scientific,
different thing.
or excuse me, an experiment by
No.
2 university professors.
Quick. When my internet kicked me out here, did you talk about what the range of nanometers were?
It's 250. It's 250. It's pretty specific. It's 253.7 is what they're
Right.
using.
Okay, Dave, can you
It's
throw
200
something
to
up mine up?
280. 200 to 280, but most of the light bulbs that are made for UVC will say 254.
Right.
That's basically what they'll say.
Dave, can you throw this up here? Just to make sure, because I've seen some comments on the side here. I know some people are going to get confused, so you can put my. Oh, wait a minute. Let me share it again. Dang it! It kicked me out. Got to share it again.
While you do that,
there it is.
Doc, what do you think about food dehydrators? They can get up to 160 degrees. Do you think that would be a viable option?
Yes, and I think they went to 160 degrees.
I have no problem with that.
I think so.
It's something that, drying this virus out helps to stop it from getting into your cells. It just doesn't like that. So the heat and the dryness, now cool and dry, it has no problem with. But the heat and dry, it's not good with.
All right. So everyone, everyone's talking about, I ran a UV light over it. You got to make sure it's the right UV light. Any of these here you see here, these are 395 to 415 nanometers. All right. The ones that work are the ones that specifically say that you got to check on them because some are misleading. This says germicidal. If I scroll down here on it, it's 254 nanometers.
There you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
Awesome.
This one here, however, where it listed as a germicidal lamp is not, because when I ran the search on it, it was 400 nanometers. Now these other ones here, I looked up specific ones, and if you look on some of these along here, it'll say 254 nanometers on these bulbs. So you got to make sure you're getting the right one. Just a regular black light or a UV light will not work. It must be the 254 nanometers on the bulb. And, if you look at on these here, you have to go in and check them. And these here, like here, when you check, I checked most of these, they are 250 nanometers.
Excellent. Good to hear. Because those are, I had never seen these freestanding uncovered UV lights before, because apparently, before we didn't want those in our spaces because if you get near them, they're supposed to be harmful. And now they've got these open air UV lights, but you're supposed to leave the room. So you leave the room for a certain period of time, depending on the light, and it's supposed to help clean things. And then you come back in after it's off. So these are very interesting. And now that I'm seeing them in buses, airplanes, hospital rooms, that's not good. My poor children would never be exposed to that. And notice the woman is looking down, but she's got the kids standing there.
But I'll tell you what they do in China. What they're doing now is that the school buses at night, they just put in these lights and turn them on for a period of time in China, so that the school buses actually sterilize every night.
Which is great because no one's there.
Right.
I have no problem when the kids aren't there.
So I had Gil put a couple slides together showing viable, honest options. This model right here, you can actually find on Banggood. Of course, it'll take a week extra to get here, But you can find
was
this
it
model
$1,500? I looked at that yesterday. I think it was $1,600 for that.
No, actually,
German way.
well, that's the name brand. You can get the off-brand model, which has
Oh.
nanometers for like $180.
Aha.
So now, if you happen to have a family member that's sick and they've been in a quarantined room and you've got that room sealed off, once they start getting better, once they're no longer exhibiting symptoms, you don't want to just shove them back into that room. You're going to want a way to clean that room.
Right.
For me personally, I think $180 is a good peace of mind to know that the room's disinfected, because it doesn't take long with one of them models. And, but they also make portable smaller ones, which Gil should have a slide here shortly with that.
There's that one.
Right.
Now, I want to point out
cool.
on the remote controls here, it starts with 15 minutes. It's the minimum amount of time you can do on these remotes, 15, 30, or 60 minutes.
Awesome.
Yep, so
now, the only concern with all of these lights, including this one, is how far away things are, because the strength of the bulb, not just the nanometers, but actually the watts of the bulb matter. So what I've read is the 100-watt bulbs do, what did we say? How many feet away? 10 feet away. And the 200 feet, or the 200 watts go to 20 feet. So it depends on the watt of the bulb, how strong it is, not just the nanometers. And then you've got the strength, and then you've also got the time. So it can be less strong, but if you leave it in longer, so it's the 60 minutes. Now, what it will not kill is anything underneath the mattress, anything that's shadowed. This thing has to have direct contact. So if it can't see it, it won't kill it. So if you have sheets on a bed, nothing under the sheets are going to be killed. Anything underneath the mattress, anything, if it's not directly lit, it's not going to kill it. So you may need to, say, flip a mattress. You may need to lift something up to get underneath it. So you may have to move this around and kind of spend more than just the 15 or 60 minutes with this in the room. So you might have to move it to underneath the bed or behind the bed. If there's curtains, you got to move the curtains. So you really need to make sure that everything that's illuminated is illuminated front, back, underneath, all surfaces for that period of time.
Go back one.
Go back one.
Yes. The reason I wanted to put this picture in here is because, let's say, like New York, Central Park has multiple tents set up to treat patients. Well, if you're outside in a tent, USB operated site like this one here would be good for decontaminating a tent. So having a portable USB charged option, I personally think, with the fact that this will probably show back up again this fall, and is very high probability according to the experts, and I'm not one of them, so take what I just said with a grain of salt. Having something like that probably would be beneficial in the future.
Not a bad idea.
And again, it doesn't hurt if you've got somebody who's left who was sick, just to move this thing around. Start in one corner, move to the other corner, move to the third corner, move to the fourth corner, put it in the middle, then do another area between those 2 points. You can't over UV light, flip things, pick them up, make sure that the light is close enough and long enough that you're going to kill what's going on in there.
What about ozone generators for those sick rooms? Do you think an ozone generator would be appropriate?
Well, ozone generator is another way to deal with it. Ozone, we've had aquariums, and so we've used ozone generators, and we've used UVC light as a way to.
Well, ozone helps to carry UVC light around, but there's been questions about ozone and safety of people.
Right. You definitely don't want to be in the same room with an ozone generator. If you're
that's the thing.
Oh, yeah, right.
But ozone and this is what I've researched, is that ozone actually helps to move UVC light around to areas that it didn't actually penetrate. So like say my mask in here, this actually produces ozone. And I know this because I know what ozone smells like because I have a UVC ozone light in one of my air conditioners and I could smell it. I know when the light is down because I stopped smelling it. And I know when it's fresh, I can smell it. But this thing, when I turned it on, after 15 minutes, I opened it up. I actually took the mask and I said, honey, smell this. And he could smell it. You can smell the ozone. So this thing produces it. So it's helping to move it around to areas that might be in shadows, in areas that are not directly seen by the UVC light. So it's, just another way to kill germs. Hey,
now
the more ways we have to kill germs, the better.
let me just say that ozone does outperform UVC in one critical way, in that it cleans up its mess, whereas UVC doesn't. What's UVC doing? When it's doing its job, it's damaging the DNA,
Deactivating it.
Deactivating it.
Right.
It leaves behind all the carcasses and debris of all that. And it's the job of your chemicals and enzymes, and of course a filter to remove the mess. Where ozone, on the other hand, kills everything that might be in the water. I'm talking about aquariums because I have a lot of knowledge about both of those sterilization methods for water. But ozone kills everything in the water, 99.99 and probably 10 nines beyond that. Then it sweeps it all up in a process that's called microflocculation. And it just sort of mashes it up and it disappears.
And that's all of it on that slideshow.
Yep. There wasn't much.
Yeah. Now, I got to step out of here because my daughter's in the hospital. She gave birth yesterday to my fourth grandson.
Oh, congratulations.
Oh, yay!
That's wonderful.
And I put on Kung Fu Panda 2. I've been listening to the boys down there. It's it just ended and they're starting to yell. So and it's time for them to be put to bed.
Right.
So I got to put the other 3 grand boys to bed right now. So I'll be back in about 10 minutes.
All right. No problem.
Congratulations.
Hey, that's wonderful.
Aw.
See, good news in the midst of all this mess. That's wonderful.
That is beautiful.
Find some happiness in.
I know.
Way,
Every day we try to think of something that might be okay, like, hey, we're going to make more American made products, right? These companies are going to wake up and say, you know what? I'm tired of having to get my stuff shipped over here. We're going to make this today, here and now.
Well,
I'm hoping Walmart will be filled with American made stuff instead of Chinese made stuff.
Yeah.
You got too many greedy people in the upper echelons of management who think they desire a 6 and 7 to 8 digit paycheck every year.
Yeah.
So the cost of the stuff made here in the U.S. is 10 times what they can make it for over in China, because over there they don't pay their people very well.
No,
they don't.
It'll be interesting to see
if we learn our lesson.
What happens.
I do think it's a good thing for people that are for the preparedness movement, because I think that a lot of people will be thinking about it. Certainly been up front and center with regards to, the pandemic. And so it'll be interesting to see if people do that. By the way, that whistling you hear is our parrot.
Yeah.
We have an African gray parrot that we've had.
I'm going to get out. Wait. No, she's fine. Leave her there. Okay.
This is our African gray parrot.
Oh gosh. Don't let her poop on the computer.
Her name is TD. It stands for TD bird, actually. It stands for that.
Darn bird.
Darn bird. And she's 33. She's 33 years old. I've had her since she was an egg. So she's spent most of my life with me. And
hey, bird.
And she's just a little sweet thing. Usually these things just bite you and do all sorts of stuff. But I could do all sorts of terrible things to her, and she won't give me trouble. Here,
I don't know. She's probably a little excited with all the talking.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's what I just
don't
wanted
put her
to
on me.
Just wanted to show you what the whistle is. They bond to one person, and that's why Amy is a little wary of the bird.
No, I have bites. I have bites.
I have
she's bites
she's been bitten by the bird,
a
but
few times.
but I can do just about anything I want to the bird, and it never bothers me because it's a mate, I guess.
He's the person. That's the bond.
The funny thing is, I didn't even know it was a female until it was 30 years old and started laying eggs. So.
And the reason he's had her since she was an egg is because a patient of his that he did surgery on raised birds and said, "Hey, I have an African gray egg. Would you like to have a bird?" And so he went and visited the egg before this thing was even hatched. So he saw her, which is really amazing.
She was ugly as hell when she was when she was young.
Well, they don't have
she was
feathers.
Just a baby. Yeah. All right. Well,
only a father could love.
Enough of that silliness. So
again, we have to have some happiness in this world, okay? It's all doom and gloom all day
instead of doom and bloom.
Instead of bloom.
Doom and bloom. That's right.
I spend half the day with anxiety attacks.
Do you? Well,
I do. I get stressed. I worry about the world.
That explains so much.
I worry about the world, baby.
That's why she got sick. That's why I keep telling you guys an email. Settle down, get some rest.
Right. That's
I
right.
know.
That's
rest?
Right.
What is
wow,
it?
we haven't.
What do you mean by that?
I have to tell you, for the last 2 months straight, we've been there 7 days.
No, more than 2 weeks. Since January 25th, we worked every single day. All of you people who've ordered from us, thank you so much. Mostly this person and this person has packed your order and printed your label.
That's right. We
did it.
So we have
This
helpers.
is a mom and pop shop.
We have helpers, but
to the max.
we're a mom and pop. That's right. So put it for what it's worth.
But we like it.
Since people joined since we started, why don't you go over your new book again?
Well, the book is called Alton's Pandemic Preparedness Guide. I'm only able to show you a paper because I actually am sold out of the first copies that we've got. It'll probably be a couple of weeks before we get anything else from Amazon, right?
Tuesday.
Oh, good. Okay, that's not bad. So,
and we ordered some special books.
Yep.
You want to talk about the special?
Oh, yeah,
books?
we have some color books.
We were not sure if Amazon was going to get to our book because there even now people are ordering books or not getting them delivered till May, sometime in May.
Yeah, so we had another printing company put up a book, put together a book for us that's the same book but in color, and so
it's our first color book ever. We only did a few of them, but it's our first color book ever.
That's right, because we self publish our books, and basically
Amazon's ridiculous if you want to do color pictures.
Yeah, they don't.
Literally, that book would have cost like $100 if we did it in color. They're insane what they want to charge for color pictures. I don't know why it's so crazy.
Just include a box of 64 Crayolas with every book.
Yeah, there you go.
Wait, and I'll give a prize to the best colored pictures.
Yes.
There you go, folks. Go buy a black and white book, color pictures, and submit them.
That's right. So
I try to make them brilliant in the black and white though, so they're nice and like you can see the contrast and stuff. Right. But this is our first color book, but you'll only be able to get it on our website. So, but I won't. I think they were supposed to ship them today. We'll see. You know, you send money to a printing company and then you pray that you actually get a product.
So yes, if you want a book, go hit the Doom and Bloom. Is it .net?
Yes, .net. But if you
it is, I own .com, but .net is what we had before. What are you doing?
I'm sorry. Boy? I have a bunch of stuff up always, so sometimes it decides to talk to me.
Go to their website, doomandbloom.net, and there's a store tab. It's going to cost the same, but if you're fortunate, you might get an autographed copy.
Yes, we will. We're happy to autograph it for you, of course.
We're honored.
Now, if you're buying it for someone else, though, tell us. Sign this to. Oh, there you go.
Oh, that's one with me on the top. That means I wrote the name. Yeah. Some of them, he says, what we'll do is we'll split the books. And he'll sign half of them, and then I'll sign half of them, and then we switch them over. So that one I started, and then I sent it to him. That's funny.
And if you're bored at this time, go visit their website and buy their game board. I have
Yeah,
some
we have a board game too. We have, the funny thing is that we haven't been able to get any more copies of our game because it is manufactured in China. All board games pretty much are manufactured in China unless there's specifically a Hasbro game.
And now there's a 2,000 minimum game box. So if I order another set of them, I'll have them up to my ceiling in my living room, in my kitchen, in my dining room, in my family room.
We'll save one because I will order one as soon as we get our stimulus check. I'm ordering one.
All right, sounds good. I'll save one for you. So
Oh, by the way, when are those coming out? Are they hopefully soon,
Well,
right?
It depends. People who have their information stored at the IRS, and that includes people on disability, Social Security, railroad employees that no longer have to pay taxes, or those who have filed taxes in 2018 and 2019, should start receiving checks on or about the 14th.
All right, well, that's good news.
That's crazy. That's wonderful.
But those who do not have direct deposit information labeled with the IRS, which is basically everybody I didn't mention, could be waiting until the latter part of July to get your checks.
Wow.
What?
Wow,
Yes.
no.
How's
kidding.
that going to pay rent?
Well,
Or food?
they're not letting people be
Into
evicted.
July?
They're not letting people be evicted for at least
Yeah,
3
but
months.
how are you going to buy groceries if you don't have any money in your checking account?
Well, the Federal Reserve and the IRS are trying to work together to try and implement and speed that up. Because, the Federal Reserve is just printing money like crazy right now.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I can imagine. They should just put it in a bag and just mail that to everybody.
They just need to drive an airplane, C-130 open up the back hatch and just let it pour out the back end.
There you go.
Because it's paper and, Anywho, we won't discuss the Fed here.
So the end of July is when some people are going to get it?
The last report that I watched it actually gave a timeline for certain people. It's the end of July.
All right, pretty crazy, but
Those are people that will be receiving paper checks. But like I say, the people with direct deposit information through Social Security and the IRS should start receiving on or about the 14th because they updated it today. It was at the end of this coming week, the end of this next coming week, but they've now moved it forward. So, of course, it's our government. It remains to be seen if it's true. Yes, paper checks do go out last.
okay. All right, so I guess if we don't have anything else going on, or if nobody else has any questions, I guess we'll call it a night.
We'll get some sleep. Do you remember what that was, honey?
But at least you guys had a lot more jovial conversation tonight rather than the people that keep bugging you constantly.
Well, you guys are awesome, and we're
no,
thank
it's
you, thank-
fine.
we
We
thank you very much
enjoy
for-
actually coming on and talking with you guys.
yes,
Just so you know,
you're great guys.
this is a bright spot in our week. So don't ever feel like you're bothering us. We're happy to talk anytime. Please and thank you for, allowing us to speak to the people who trust you and who listen to you guys.
Well, tonight they're listening to
We're
you
happy
because
to be here.
I could tell them all night long UV lights are the best thing, but if I get the nanometers wrong and they buy the wrong stuff and wind up sick, they're going to be coming after me, and I ain't got no way to do it. That's why I'd rather get a professional's opinion on it. That way they understand that everything that's listed as UV germicidal isn't.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
Again, 253.7, or most bulbs say 254
No,
on it.
right. The bulb will just say 254, generally speaking.
Anything other than that, it's not guaranteed to work. I wouldn't buy it.
There you go.
I ordered one that actually had that listed as a nanometer, and now Amazon says that page doesn't exist anymore.
Wow, crazy, baby.
There's a lot of people coming in and out of this market to sell things to people who are thinking about protecting themselves. And, I actually bought one of the things that got refunded to me was I bought some masks. And this was on a website that just, I guess, had popped up, and I bought them and I waited and I finally wrote back to them. I said, are you ever going to send these to me? And they're like, oh, they're on back order. We don't know how long. So I'm like, okay, just refund my money. I mean, you can't sell me something and then expect me to wait like 6 months. I mean, I'm willing to wait a few weeks. I understand what's going on, but unending back order, we have no idea, is not an answer. So I had to ask for my money back.
Yeah,
So,
I gotta try to find some more masks.
I'm going to watch it.
Away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ship me some masks too. I'm gonna have to order another set worth. I gave too many away. But
You
you
know,
know, the lady next door, she's pregnant, so and her baby's due in June. So I couldn't, with good conscience, not give her something to help protect herself.
you know what? I am giving a lot of masks away to people who don't expect them, that arrive in the mail, you know, and I just, it's people who I know have special situations. You know, we all just have to be good neighbors.
That's right. The good news
That's
is
it.
that
Good community members.
they haven't found anything that appears to be associated with COVID-19 in terms of bad pregnancy
knock
outcomes.
on wood.
So that's something.
Unlike Zika.
One case over in France where the lady was pregnant, she contracted it, and the baby was born with it. Well, it's the only one of the 4 cases of pregnancies that I've heard that the baby actually contracted it.
But you know what?
Did the baby survive?
But and that's fine as long as the baby's okay. What we saw with the Zika, I mean, you don't remember. It was like the brain was too small, and they're like not right. And you know, if you have Zika, or excuse me, if you have COVID and you get through it, and they're just fine, and they go to kindergarten and they go to college, that's all we can ask for. You know, that it was just an illness, just a little bit of a virus. Everybody gets better and they move on just fine, unaffected is what we want. Again, knock on wood, unaffected.
Exactly. Well, I just keep praying every night.
It's all we all can do.
It's all we can
Stick
do,
together, be good neighbors, good community members, and help each other. Share information that we find. Share information that you find, and the folks that are watching and participating here. You know, everything that you guys know and learn, we just put it all together, and hopefully we all come out on the other side, you know, healthy and wiser.
All we can do as Christians is pray as Aaron did, and lifting our prayers up to heaven as incense. You know, stand like Aaron did between the living and the dead and pray.
That's right.
That's right. Amen.
That's what I did every night, multiple times a day. I had my church praying for her, and after 4 days, he still had fever blisters all over his back from having a fever so high for so many days. But then, you know, when he came down off the fever, and he just normal little kid again.
Well, thank goodness for that.
That's oh my gosh.
Definitely.
All right, guys. Well, it has been beautiful to talk to you. We wish all of you the best. We pray for everyone who's listening and watching now and in the future, that we're all here and together on the other side, and we'll have topics that may talk about broken legs or burns or bleeding, you know, things that we'd love to talk about.
Other terrible things that we'd like to talk about.
Yes. Considering our medical system right now is completely overwhelmed in many states.
Sure.
Some of them other things that you just mentioned would not be a bad topic to bring up. So anytime you guys want to come back up here, just email me and we'll set it up.
All right. Sounds great.
We're happy to.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you for inviting us. You guys, everyone be safe, please.
Right. You guys do the same. Get some rest. That's an order from a doctor. That ain't a doctor.
Right. Thank you.
God bless.
Bye.
God bless. Take care.
Okie dokie. Now it's just me and a picture of Gil's place. So we'll let Doc and Nurse Amy go ahead and go get some rest. And has anybody got any other questions for me? Or I'd hate to leave Gil out there by himself. Well, he had to go put kids to bed. So, I mean, we're still here for a few more minutes. Because, you know, I figured 2 hours, and we've only been at it in an hour and 19 minutes. So other than future puppies coming, if everybody's still here, what else is good news? There's got to be some good news here. Anybody? Yes, it is an Alton's backpack. And yes, it's full. Well, almost full. It weighs 18.4 pounds. It's actually light enough Charles could carry it, although it's almost half his size. You made mustards today. Corn is doing well. That's good. That's good. But yes, I ordered the backpack. So, hey, Josh, I ordered the backpack, and the old pack that I have, I'm going to try and clean it up a little bit. Not that it's major dirty, but it's kind of dusty. So when I do my next giveaway, I'm actually going to include my old medical bag, so you guys can put your medical supplies into a bag and have it at handy ready. I'm sure you all remember it. If not, go back through and you'll see a video on my playlist where I did my medical bag review. And I was actually able to take everything that was in that, put it in that, and still have lots of room left over. Well, that's awesome, small town. It will be going back up for replay. They were here for just a little over an hour. And we discussed UV lights, his new book, and general other questions. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I am experiencing a very heavy thunderstorm over here. My lights have actually flickered once already, which is messing with the cable box that's right outside the building here, that every time it rains, it floods and my cable goes.
So they covered everything they wanted to?
Yeah. Fishes and Loaves, just tell them to join us. We don't bite. We don't nibble either. We're nice people. We don't cuss. We don't swear. Yeah, I told him to go get some rest. Yeah, well, down here in Southwest Ohio, we're getting it tonight. I'm watching my cameras. My cameras keep going completely white from the lightning.
All right, I got that. Well, let me look at something here for you.
Oh, okay. What you looking at?
I'm bringing up, actually, let me bring it up on this other one here. Let me get back on here. Okay, we're done with that. So this one here, I'm going to go and bring up Jetstream. Okay, so yeah, here's the storm coming in and cutting across there. Let me bring it up a little bit. That was at Wednesday at 1 Eastern Standard Time. So this is at 7 p.m. So that's a couple hours ago.
Michigan got hammered.
Yeah. Oh, look what's coming down at you.
Oh, I already see. I'm already looking at it on my cameras.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the light stuff's ahead of the heavy stuff, heavy colors here. And so they move it across just a little bit more. And yeah, you're going to be getting it tomorrow morning. It's going to be hitting hard in there. That's at 1 o'clock Thursday.
Awesome. I love a good rainstorm. Ooh, look
at the
from red to purple.
Top
of my house. Lovely.
Yeah.
And you want to know what the funny thing is? By the grace of God, I'll probably miss 99% of it.
Yep.
There's going to be a bubble around the about an 8-block radius, 8-mile radius where I live. 8 miles south of me can get 2.5 foot of snow. 8 miles north, east, and west of me can get 2.5 foot of snow, and I'll get like 2 inches.
Yeah. So that's what's going on across the country here. Now, when we get to Saturday, coming up here Saturday evening, this little strip, this little piece right up here, that's the little bit of 20% chance of snow I'm going to get Saturday evening. Going right through there, right there, and it's gone by Sunday morning.
See, my concern is right there where you see the blue and then the green and red together. That is perfect for formations of very bad circular things, causing things to come off the ground and fly at 120 mile an hour and impale themselves on
as she pedals her bike around the house, which turns into a broom. But yeah, so that's just Sunday. This I'm going to slide it off. So we got Sunday, getting into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So, next Saturday you're going to get rain too, possibly.
Yeah, I ain't worried about it.
But
the creek will rise, and I'll tell the neighbor kids to stay out of the creek. Don't swim in it, because as long as the water's clear, it's not too bad. But when it's, hey, that one's
it's behind because I was off on the other one
by about 5 minutes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So there's the weather map. It'll catch up. Bingo. It actually was about 15 minutes behind. And it's still catching up. So that's your jet stream right there. I just put the link in there for it. Anybody wants to do it. I say it's fun to look at just to see what's going on, because it gives you farther out. And once you learn to read it and how it works with everything, and the light here is the low pressure system. These are the high pressure systems, which usually bring the clouds and stuff. And so, like, I got a low pressure system over right now, and it's really, really nice and clear and sunny today. And it's like what's his name? Yeah, was talking about the high pressure, low pressures, and how that which way the air is flowing, and how the one will clear out the air, the other one brings all the clouds in. But yeah. So there you go, folks. Something to look at. Save that little link and have fun playing with it. It updates every day at midnight. I believe it's midnight it updates.
So, quick question for the side chat there with 22 people in it.
Woo!
Yeah, technical difficulties. My power just flickered again. So I may disappear. I hope not, but hey, who knows?
So long as I'm on here, he can come back in.
Yeah. Problem is, you can't end the stream from your end.
No, I can't. But if everybody gets off of it, it'll just sit there with nobody on it.
It'll automatically end after 5 minutes, yes.
Yeah.
Anywho, since we are now in the current conditions we are in, most of us are living at DEFCON 3. Some of us may have elevated or de-elevated. Has any of your friends and family come to you and saying, could you help me out? I want to learn more. If so, please type in 1.
And what have you been beating on your on friends and relatives for the past 40 years to get this information? From the time they were babies, you were beating on your nieces and nephews, and prepping them. I only have one niece that just drank the Kool-Aid. I think her husband gave it to her.
Uh-oh. So nobody's had friends or relatives come up bugging them, wanting to learn more about being prepared. I know I got one neighbor that listens to all kinds of trash. Well, it's about time, young lady, Miss Queen of the North.
Oh, hail the great Queen of the North.
But the one lady that side of me tried getting me to watch a Facebook thing that some lady supposedly was a nurse in a hospital. But if you looked at the lady, you can tell she's wearing a hairnet from the food court. And she was convinced, my neighbor lady was convinced what this lady was saying was right, that this is a scam by the government, that 80-degree weather will kill the virus. No, it won't. Our body temp's 98.6 as a rule. Mine sits usually a little bit lower for some reason. I guess I'm just abnormal. Yeah, because mine normally rides at 97.4. And every time I go to my doctor, he says, there's got to be something wrong with you. Why? Because your body temperature is not high enough. Good. That means I'm not going to overheat.
Yeah. My one cousin was like that. She runs about 1.5 degrees low. And when she moved from California to Texas, she took her entire medical record with her, and notes from the doctor saying, don't freak out. Her body temperature from the time she was 3 years old has been 1.5 degrees low.
All right, hold on, folks. Hold on. For those that didn't catch it. Now, Lori, we've tried to get the proper information out there. You should have a wealth of information to be able to deal with this. You know how to get a hold of me. You have questions, contact me immediately. If you need my phone number, I will get it to you. I have also other people I can reach out to and get you information if I don't have it. And prayers will be said. And for those who pray, please pray for her daughter this evening and for the next 7 days at bare minimum. Okay.
What's her name?
You're fine, Lori. Don't worry about it. We understand that family is far more important than come visiting us.
Yeah.
We appreciate you letting us know. And if you would be so kind to let us know the name so we can use the name properly. Not that he wouldn't hear a generalized prayer.
Kimberly.
He hears all prayer from honest hearts.
Yeah.
And Miss Lori, make sure you put that on the DCM page as well. You're there, so that way they can pray for it as well. I'm sure Pastor would definitely like to know about it. Because if you won't do it, I will. Because I know you're busy. I'd do it just so you don't have to worry about it. And like I said, Lori, if you're busy, I'll go ahead and post it for you. That way you don't have to worry about it. You can go ahead and take care of what you're taking care of.
Wearing full PPE, including bodysuit. Mm-hmm.
All right. And this goes to prove, guys, you know, that no matter how hard we prepare ourselves, it can still happen that close. I mean, I had it right next door, and by the grace of God alone, I'm okay. All right. And that's the only reason I'm okay, by the grace of God. And through prayer, intercessory prayer, her little boy, herself, and the newborn baby all appear to be okay now. So, I mean, prayer is an amazing thing. Do not ever discount somebody when they say, I'm going to pray for you, if you're not a current person who prays. Lori, isn't she the one that worked at the food court?
Shoot.
PTL. What's PTL? 18 in 3 days.
PTL?
Yeah.
Praise the Lord.
Oh, okay. That works. I have no problem with that one. I just a little confused. You know, I was being old country bumpkin that lived in the city and went back to the country. And now I'm back in the darn city again.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. They all work in commerce. Okay.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Here we go. I didn't get a chance to do this when Doc and Amy were on here. I wanted to check some things out.
This might be some good information for you if you can find them in your area.
Yeah. So then right now I've been looking up. I looked up ultraviolet germicidal irradiation devices, and I pulled 3 off of here. This one here, maybe comes up. $99 is a small one. You could probably fit your mask in there, so you can reuse your mask and stuff. This is, come on.
All right, Lori, don't hesitate, Lori. If you're taking off, don't hesitate to get a hold of me for anything.
Yeah. This is similar to what they had, only I don't like the fact that it's got a clear in the front of it here, even though it's probably tinted. So,
there's a way to block that. And hold on, let me bring me back up to.
And this one,
Red,
yeah,
red the dark red plexiglass put in front of that will keep that from coming out.
Yeah.
What you use in front of lasers, and lasers will blow your eyes
Yeah.
out just that well.
Here's when it's interesting. It says, UV sterilizer cabinet, ozone ultraviolet sterilization,
Yeah,
which
send
is
me
similar
a
to
link.
what hers was.
Send me a link to that one later, will you?
Yeah. And I wish I could get the name. Well, she told me the name. I think this might be one of these ones down here, which
like,
are, this is eBay. This is on eBay. So hers might have been one of these ones down here with the cabinet. So, yeah, I will actually, for everybody, if it's not too long, let's see if I can post it. It may be, I think it's way too long. Dang it. Yeah. But that's way too long too. Yeah. So basically I just did the ultraviolet germicidal irradiation device. And this is on your, when you first start up, this is what the, your little things here. And so I went over one whole thing and then I started finding these. And it was off the one off of eBay, which led to those others, which was this one here, which led to these other ones, which looked like the one that Nurse Amy got. But yeah, there are, and that one has the tray that pops open, and that may have the solid glass on it too. But yeah, there are, and these were mainly used for dental because, hey, there's a lot of germs in dentist office.
Mm-hmm.
So
percent of the germs comes from is oral.
Yeah. So there are a bunch of these for your masks and stuff.
If you're worried, if you get one of those and you're worried about the UV light coming out, that piece of plexiglass I just showed you, which is a 12 by 12 piece of 1/4 inch red plexi, is like $12.
On Amazon?
On Amazon.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's, you put a little hole through it very carefully, you drill a hole through it, put a little knob on it, and use the knob to hang it over in front of the door so you ain't got to worry about the light coming out.
Yeah. Or if you have a towel you want to sanitize your hood, put it up in front of it, and anything coming out will get the towel.
But in this, with PPE still being in very short supply, please consider getting some form of UVC radiation device to take care of your mask so you don't have to, like I've been doing, I've had to throw away each one I've used because I didn't have any way to sterilize it. And my oven doesn't work consistently enough to use it. I don't even bake in it.
Yeah, unfortunately, the bulbs they had, the 65-watt bulbs, which if you put 2 in a fixture, it gives you the 130 watts. They're out. They were there this morning at Lowe's, so I'm not sure when they'll be getting them back in stock.
Thank you, Kathy. And those bulbs, though, are mainly designed for the 4-foot overhead lights. That's what you'll see in some operating rooms, and you'll see lots of them in that room. That way, after surgery, they turn off all the other lights. They flip a switch, those come on, and they let them sit on for like 2 or 3 hours. Yeah.
And this is the 254 nanometer radiation. So
what you want. So take notes if you're going to do it. 253.7 or 254, depending on the manufacturer, is a proper nanometer, and it'll be listed as NM on the bulb is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So if you see 254 NM, that is the proper one. Anything higher than that is not going to do the job. They're lying to you through their teeth. Like that one.
This one. Yeah, this one says ultraviolet germicidal. Well, the problem is, this one is, if I get down here to the, I got to click on the other thing. Full description. There we go. The full description. And this one, when I go down to the bottom to the full description here, is 395 nanometer to 405 nanometer. Way too high of a frequency to do anything.
Yeah.
Other than give you a sunburn. Yeah. But the all the ones I had up there earlier, if I go back on this.
And Lori, we actually went over the zinc, and Doc and Nurse Amy went over the zinc and everything near the beginning of this. So don't hesitate when you're, just if nothing else, when you're doing what you need to do, have it playing in the background so you can at least hear what they're saying. because we did go over that stuff tonight.
And these are the germicidal fixtures. And we talked about all these ones here. And in fact, let me just throw that up there real quick for anyone coming in late here. Go back to the beginning. You do not want to do this like they're doing in Russia. No, that's bad. That causes skin cancer. But these ones here, how much would you say you found this one for, Dave?
You can find the off-brand ones for around $180 plus shipping, which is usually about $20. Those are full room. Those are designed to sanitize a room, be moved around in each corner, so so you get every aspect. Anything that's in shadow doesn't get eradicated or irradiated. So you've got to keep moving around. But this is for a room that's been used as a quarantine room. And before you can actually move anybody else back in, you have to disinfect it somehow. This is going to be a lot cheaper in the long run than trying to buy all the cleaning products you're going to need to disinfect that room.
Yeah. And this has a timer on it for doing it.
Yep.
And then these other ones you get, this is also from Germaway. It's a floor standing unit. And it's got a timer, 15, 30, or 60 minutes. All the timers are 15-minute minimum. And so as a 10-second delay before it comes on, gives you time to get the heck out of the room.
Yep.
And this is a little portable one that's can be charged on USB.
And that's perfect if you have to set up a tent.
Yeah. I have a little USB fan. I found out if I plug it into a USB device at the same time, it just keeps it fully charged and runs.
Mm-hmm. And that is perfect because Nurse Amy's got one just like that. It's about a foot, about 18 to 20 inches long. So it's not tiny, but it is rechargeable. No, that one's not. That's plug. But they make a rechargeable model similar to that. And that's for doing like keyboards. You can do your masks with something like that. And that's a lot cheaper than a room model, but it doesn't cover a room.
I bet that is rechargeable.
Well, it's 5-volt DC, so I don't know.
Yeah. And then the next, there's that same, a similar model being used on multiple surfaces and how to use it. And that should be the last of it. Yeah. So those are the ones. I mean, they got all these here, guys. Some of these are, move around. Some of these also put out ozone as well, which Doc said helps the UV
permeate
the room. And I guess the ozone will actually, like water droplets will refract light and give you the rainbow and stuff and make it bend. The ozone does the same thing with the UV, makes it bend around corners and stuff a little bit. Because they were talking about it can get into cracks and stuff that normally you couldn't with the UV when you have the ozone in there as well. So there are a bunch of options here for different ones. That little small one there that we showed is $65.
And they also make them that you can plug into your light sockets.
Oh, and it says this one also produces ozone too. And yes, there are some light socket ones. Here's a 60 watt one, and it says right there 254 nanometers. And so that one's $22. Here's another one over here, and it doesn't say whether it's what it is. Sorry, but it looks very similar for $26 on eBay. So there are different ones, and you just got to make sure it's 254, or if they get down really fine and technical, it's be 253.7 nanometers.
So we tried to give you guys a wealth of information tonight, away from the normal doom and gloom. Doom and gloom, not doom and gloom. We wanted doom and gloom here to help give you the good information.
Yeah.
Sorry, words are difficult. It's one of those days. But I wanted to make sure, considering it's been a lot of talk on some news agencies lately about UV light, I wanted to make sure you guys had the proper information, not the stuff that they're spewing, and make sure that when you go looking for it, you actually know what type to look for. You're not being ripped off.
Ouch, loaves and fishes. Good information there, Texan.
I do believe she's already split the scene, so to speak.
So if anybody, Texan, if you're on the Discord channel, you can leave a message for her on the Discord channel and she'll get it later.
Excuse me.
And if you're not on the Discord channel, maybe Dave can set it up here before he goes, a little link for everybody that's not in Discord.
By the time she watches this in the morning, the chat should be live with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So some of these you got to be careful of. I can tell, like, this one here, it's too much purple on it. It's not blue enough. And so kind of a clue to the wavelength on it. So yeah, there's a bunch of the little ones in here. They have the different type things. They got a little portable one. So,
hey, big dreams. Appreciate you saying hello. I'm sorry, I can't do a very good Miss Doubtfire. Not without some.
hello.
My cat's looking at me like right now. What are you talking about, you idiot?
Okay.
Gotta love cats. You don't own them, they own you. News story at 6.
All right. So someone out there is on Discord. Could you put in their message to Laura Jean about the nebulizer and putting the collated silver in it?
All right, Kathy, have a good night. Yeah, I'm probably going to shut her down here. My thunderstorm's actually getting a little more robust.
Yeah.
And I need to disconnect internet cables from computers. I'll run wireless, but I'm not going to try and do this via wireless.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to end her here, guys. Y'all take it easy. Take care. Be safe. God bless. Prayers, Psalm 91 over each and every one of you guys.
See y'all later.